Okay, so we're so excited. We're going to simplify water quality testing now. We're going to break it down into 3 easy steps for you guys because we know this can be overwhelming and complicated. The first is simplifying to our primary quality testing. So can you break down what primary quality testing means?
Amber, yes, primary testing would be, let's get the big 3 where they need to be for the highest level of success for your aquarium. pH. We want to see a pH usually around the neutral level for if you're doing a mixed community tank. If you're getting into specialized fish, like say African cichlids, we would have a higher pH. If you were doing certain fish out of the Amazon, they would require a lower pH. So that's very easily done with usually just a basic test strip that you can use that in 60 seconds is going to give you a reading. They're fairly accurate. They're going to usually give you a baseline. It's pretty close to what actual will be. If you wanted to step things up just a little bit more, we can go into the use of a liquid titration test. This is going to be a color change that's going to happen, so that will be also easy for you to read. And if you really have the budget, let's get into digital pH readers. So you can go anywhere in these different ranges, like good, better, safe, best, but certainly a digital reading is going to be the most accurate if you've calibrated your solution really well. Next, we want to make sure ammonia is always at a 0 level. So the cycle we've talked about in episodes, we want to make sure that our cycle is completed so the fish are not going to have any issues with out of balance there. So ammonia and nitrite are 2 key issues that we want to make sure their tests are at 0 levels. And again, you can do something for like ammonia as an ammonia alert tab that goes right on the tank, so it'll tell you if you're safe or unsafe. But then again, we would use our strip test. We'll also tell you for like a nitrite test where you can do that, and an ammonia test can be done with a strip, easy, or you can also do them with the liquids. But if we get those 3 levels where they need to be, your success will be much, much better in the hobby.
Yep, so a couple things I just want to point out because I think it's important to make it easy for all of our viewers. So first and foremost, the strips here, they're color coded. So that makes it really easy. All you do is you dip it into the tank, you pull it out, and then you just line it up and it will tell you exactly what level you're at. That's the strips. As far as the water tester for the pH, this is actually really simple. This scared me in the beginning, but sure enough, you just need a little distilled water to make sure you're cleaning it afterwards, but it's pretty easy. You just open it up and you dip it in your tank, you press your little button, and bada bing, bada boom, you're gonna get a number, and it's gonna show you. So yes, a little more complex, looks scary, but not really scary at all. You mentioned budget, Harvey. How much are we talking for a product like this?
In the $30 to $40 range.
Okay. Worth their investment?
I do believe that the better that you are with the parameters of your water, the more successful you're going to be in the hobby.
And then if you're a super mom like myself who works and takes care of kids at home and you just need a crock pot solution to set and forget, this is great. You literally just stick it on the side of the tank like Harvey mentioned, and it's pretty easy. Okay, so that's primary. Primary is pH, the power of hydrogen, nitrate, and obviously ammonia. Those are our top 3. Now let's kind of roll into secondary testing. So if you need to take a deeper dive into the water quality parameters, let's talk about that.
So now you've done a really great job. You have the big 3 taken care of, but you might find that, geez, I am in an area where I live where I'm on well water, and your water might be very, very hard. So now we're going to get into a test for general hardness. Is your water hard or is your water soft? And again, one of those tests where if you said, I want to do an Amazon biotope, typically the water would be softer. So it would be in our best interest to soften our water, which we can do with a water softening pillow or a combination of a little bit of reverse osmosis water or distilled water with your tap water to slowly bring that hardness level down. Super hard water, super soft water, especially if you're doing mixed community, we'd like to be a little bit, say, more neutral to that. So that's one of the tests we do. Another very important one is carbonate hardness, KH, if you're looking at a test. And that's really the buffering capacity of the water. Simple, how stable can I keep the pH level of my aquarium and you need to have a nice level there so it keeps it stable. If it's too low, what will happen? The pH could drop. If the carbonate hardness is too high, it's going to continue to push up that pH of your water. So you'll get frustrated like, why can't I keep my pH to a level that I want? It's generally your carbonate hardness level is out of balance. So another good test really to do with the aquarium.
Sounds like we have a symbiotic relationship there. So one
match.
affects the other. So definitely important. Okay, so how about for advanced aquascapers out there that might be having a little bit more challenges than necessarily our beginner aquariumists?
So as an aquascaper, you would generally want to have a tank with a lot of plants in it. So maybe your parameters of like your fertilizers aren't where they need to be. So we would also do an additional test for iron. If you're challenged usually with algae on your leaves of your aquarium, maybe there's phosphate in your water. We would do a test for phosphate, PO4. And don't forget, if you're using carbon dioxide, you do not want to use CO2 without knowing what your CO2 levels are. So there's a nice drop checker that you can use. It'll tell your CO2 level in the water to give you the best chance of success of growing live plants.
Excellent. All right, well, I think that's pretty simplified into a primary, secondary, and specialty care of water quality testing. What would be your biggest piece of advice to our viewers if they were going to do one thing with water quality testing?
My advice for that is know your water beforehand, not afterhand. If you know your water, what you have to work with going into the hobby, it's a lot easier to make those corrections before you start having issues down the road. Maybe you could be that person that needs to do a little adjustment to your water when you're doing, say, a water change before you start putting water in the aquarium and then having to make those changes. Very easy, very simple to do, but it's really good to know it before you get too far ahead of yourself.
Excellent. So I'm big on the rule of threes. So 1, establish a baseline. 2, test your water quality with one of the methods we discussed. And 3, if you're going to make an intervention, if you don't feel confident, stop and consult with your local aquariumist or pet store owners, or text us and email us at our site below.
Yep.
I don't know about you guys, but I have learned so much today about water quality testing. But even though I still have this great knowledge, I know that I'm still having challenges with my tank. So, Harvey, I know that we could test our water, but if we're not doing it frequently enough, can we still get in trouble?
Yes, you could still get in trouble if you're not knowing where your water parameters are over the longer term of your aquarium. We like to suggest that you test your water weekly, start to write that down where your water tests are, because usually you'll start to see a trend. What's trending with my pH? Is it staying stable? Is it going lower? You'll see these conditions. Perhaps if you've had a lot of new fish, you might start to see a slight ammonia or nitrite rise. Why is that happening? And we can give you the results for that when you have your water tested. So it helps us at the store level. The more information that we can gather from you, the more we feel we can give you the proper advice to correct your issues. But if you at least test your water weekly, that puts you in a really good position to have success with your aquarium.
So the other thing I want to ask you about, Harvey, is a lot of times when we hear water quality testing, people automatically assume you should be changing your water. And more importantly, a lot of customers think that's just the solution to everything. Can you kind of talk a smidgen about water changes and the importance of them and when maybe they're not the solution?
Yes, good. That's a really great question, because the hobby, to me, is really changing on that aspect. I think for years everybody said, oh, you got to change the water on a weekly basis, 10 to 20%, depending on the type of fish, higher for some specialty fish. However, if you're changing water and you find that the water that you're using out of your faucet really needs to have some things done to it to make it safe for going into your aquarium, and that's not just chlorine issues, that's usually like with pH issues, hardness issues, and so forth. Sometimes too much changing might not be as good for your fish. But do realize, again, you can't just continue to drive a car without doing an oil change. So a water change is really important, but when you do that, We'd like to feel that you know the new water when it goes back in, it's at the same temperature, the same water that you have existing. That will give you a much greater chance of success with long-term keeping your fish.
So, don't just maintain the car, also maintain the tank.
Yes. One last thing. This is a time of the year where we're going to see a lot of evaporation of water. So when you get a lot more evaporation because the tank water is warmer than your air temperature, I have a lot of people that come in and continue to add water to the tank, but they don't do their water change. That would be the same as just putting oil into your car but never doing an oil change. That would not be recommended to you. Same with the aquarium. Even though you're adding a lot of water, maybe a gallon or two a week depending on tank size, it's not the same as doing your water change.
Yeah, and I think a great way to think of that is concentration, right? So
Yep.
I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm adding water in, I'm decreasing the concentration, and theoretically you are, but you're never getting rid of those negative toxins, which ultimately increase your nitrate and end up killing your fish. So just think about that. I like to try to associate them with normal day things. It makes it easier for me, who's new to the hobby, but for somebody like you who's experienced, you can certainly think of it in a more complex manner. So.
Here, we like to always point out to you the importance of the quality of your water. So we talked in the beginning about everybody looks at the clarity of your water, but I think we've done a great job today of telling you a little bit more about the quality of your water and how that will make your aquarium so very, very successful.
So we hope that you have a fish of a day, and more importantly, don't forget to tune in with us every Friday night at 6 p.m. Cuboid Aquatics. Have a great day, everyone.
See ya.